Very welcome back to the channel. So in this video we are going to be practicing CSS Flexbox with this free resource called Flexbox Froggy. Now this is a game that is available for free on the internet. Just come to flexboxfroggy.com and you would have access to it. So as you can see, there are 24 levels in all, and it sort of gets a bit difficult as you progress. So we're going to work our way from level 1 all the way to level 24 in this video. Let's get started. Alright, so for the first one, the way the game works is that you have these frogs and you have to use CSS Flexbox to position them in these lily pads. Okay, so for example here we can say justify content. Okay, the example I've been given to it, and let's say flex end, and as you can see it moves to the lily pad. The frog moves to the lily pad, and when that happens you see this next sign turns red, which means you've successfully solved it. So now we've solved level 1. Let's move on to level 2. Okay, so for level 2 we have these two frogs here, one yellow and one green, and we want them to be inside this lily pad. So I think we can use still justify content, and let's do center. Yeah, that works. Okay, so next up we have level 2. So with level 2, what we can do is justify content, and let's give it space around. Now the reason why we are using space around is because the way the space around works, it makes sure that there are equal spaces between the elements, but then the space before the first element is half the size of the space between these elements. So there's half the size of this, and the space after the last element is also half the size of what we have here. So that is space around. Now assuming I do space between, watch what happens. You see, it shifts to the edges. Alright, so on to the next one. Okay, now let's do step 3. As you can see, we have a green, yellow, and red frog, and we have these corresponding lily cards. So with this one, we should do space between. Let's try space between. Yeah, that works. So for space between, you have one element on the edge, like so, another one on the edge, and then you have equal spaces between them. Okay, so now we have these frogs at the top, and then we have the lily pads at the bottom. So we can use align elements because we are aligning them not on the main axis. In this case, we are aligning them on the cross axis, which is vertical. So we say align items, and we can do flex end, which will take it to the bottom. Yeah, as you can see. All right, next up, this is at the center. This lily pad is perfectly positioned in the center of the area. So to use Flexbox to position an element in the center, you just say justify content, give it a value of center, and also use align items. So justify content will align it horizontally, and then align items will align it to the center vertically. There you go. All right, next up we have these frogs here, and then we have these lily pads here. So first, let's align them on the horizontal side using justify content. So we're going to give it a value of space between, and then now let's align it on the cross axis or vertically using align items. And we can say flex end. That should work. Okay, so as you can see, we need to use space around instead of space between because our frogs on the edges are not perfectly centered in the lily part. So let's try space around. Yeah, that works. Okay, let's continue. All right, now, so we have these frogs, we have these lily pads, but as you can see, the lily pads are reversed. So with the frogs, the green comes first, followed by yellow and then red. But with the pads, red comes first, followed by yellow and then green. So what we can do is let's do flex direction and let's give it a value of row, but we are going to add reverse to it. So row reverse. And as you can see, that reverses the direction of the frogs or the flex items. Okay, now we are on step 9. So for step 9, we have the cards positioned vertically and then the frogs are positioned horizontally. So the way we can also position the frogs vertically for them to match these parts is to use a flex direction of column. That should work. Yes, that works. Okay, so step 10, we have these parts here and then we have these frogs, but they are also reversed once again. So notice that when you set the direction to a reverse row or column, and start and end are also reversed. So let's do a flex direction of row reverse. Okay, now let's do justify content of flex end. Okay, that works. So what we did was we used row reversed to reverse the positioning of the frog, and that sends the frogs to the far right here, and then we use a justify content of flex end to push them back to the end like so. All right, now what we can do here in this situation is we can use a flex direction of column so that the frogs will be positioned vertically. So let's try column. Okay, that works. Now let's do a justify content of let's try flex end. All right, that works. Okay, next up, what we want to do is flex direction. So we want the frogs to be in a column, so we do flex direction of column. But then as you can see, the colors are reversed. So what we can do is let's do a column reverse like so. Okay, that works. Now let's do justify content and let's give it a value of space between. There you go. All right, so now we are halfway through. Let's continue working. So now the next thing we're going to do is we can see that the parts are positioned at the bottom and then they are at the center. So first, let's do a flex direction. We are doing flex direction because as you can see, we have green here and then red here. But over here, we have the red to the left and then the green to the right. So we want to reverse the flex direction. So let's do row reverse. Okay, so that works. Now the red comes first, followed by yellow and then green. Then let's go ahead and justify the content to the center. So we say center. Okay, so this pushes it to the center. Then let's do align items of flex end. Yeah, that works. Okay, so for step 14, we want to use the order property. Okay, so the way the order property works is that if you give an order property to a particular element, it changes its order. So the order property takes a number as a value, and any element that has a higher number will be shown first. So for example, if I give it, any element that has a higher number will be shown last. So if I give yellow an order property of 9, C is shown last. But let's give it an order property of -1 and see what happens. It is shown first instead. Okay. So now let's give it, if I give it an order property of 0, nothing happens because by default, all of them have an order property of 0. Okay, so let's go ahead and give it an order property of 1, which means this one has an order property of 0, 0, and then 1. Okay. All right. Next up, as you can see, we have 4 green frogs and then 1 red frog, but the red frog is on a green pad, so we want it to come here. So like I was saying, if you give it an order property with a number that is less, it will be shown first. So let's give the red an order property, let's say -1, and as you can see, red is shown first, therefore it lies on the red pad. Beautiful. Let's keep going. Okay, now let's talk about something called align self. So align self works just as the align items, but the difference is that with the align self, you can apply it to an individual element. Okay, so as you can see here, we have 4 green frogs and then 1 yellow frog. We want the yellow frog to come down here, so we want to give it, as you can see, all of them have an align items of flex start. That's why they are all at the bottom. Okay, but if you want to push this yellow to the end or to the bottom, you will say align self, then let's give it a value of end. Sorry, the correct term is flex end. Okay, all right. Okay, so next up, we want to get these 2 yellow frogs down here. Okay, so first, let's get both of the 2 yellow frogs to be here, to be the last 2 frogs on this row. So the way we're going to do that, remember the order property that we learned. So let's give it an order property of 1. Okay, so what this means is that these greens one by default are having order properties of zeros. So 0, 0, 0, so they will be shown first. And then this one with the order property of 1 will be shown here. Now we want yellow to come down here. So let's give it an align self property. And the value we want to give it is flex end. Okay, there you go. All right. Now, let's look at something called flex wrap. So the way flex wrap works is that if there is not enough space on the same line for them, it moves the other element to a next line. Okay, so now as you can see, we have these frogs. We have 6 of them. Sorry, we have 7 of them, but there are only 5 parts here. So we need these 2 to come down here. So what we're going to do is we're going to do flex and give it a value of wrap. Okay. What? No, it should be flex wrap, not just flex. So flex wrap, and let's give it a value of wrap. There you go. All right. So we are making progress. Now let's continue. So we can also use a combination of flex direction and flex wrap as well. So in this case, we have a number of 15 frogs, and then we have 15 colors, 5 each. But currently the flex direction by default is row. That's why they are all lined up horizontally, but we want them to line up vertically. So let's give them a flex direction with the value of column. Okay, now we can see that there's not enough space for all of these frogs. We want them to take these parts here. So let's give them a flex wrap with the value of wrap. And there you go, everything works nicely. Okay, so now we are on step 20 already. So there is also a property called flex flow. Okay, and the way the flex flow works is that it's a combination, or it's a shorthand for the flex direction and then the flex wrap. So in the previous step, you remember we did a flex direction of column and then a flex wrap of wrap. So we can do that on the same line by just saying flex flow. So the first value we want to give is the direction. So we say column. And as you can see, we have a column, a flex direction of column. And I also want to give it a flex wrap. And we say wrap. Okay, so it's a shorthand for both. If you don't want to write a flex direction and also write flex wrap, you just write flex flow and then you give the values, and that works the same way. All right, now we are on level 21. So currently what we have here is that we have 15 frogs and then we have 15 parts. But as you can see, the parts are jammed at the top. So we want to use something called align content. And the align content is what checks the spacing between the various flex lines, like so. Okay, so let's do align content. And then we are going to say flex start. All right. Great. Now, like we did previously, what we did was flex start. Now we need to do flex end to position them at the bottom. So let's just do flex end, not wend, and we say flex bottom. Sorry, flex end, not flex bottom. Did I write flex end? It's going to be align content, not flex end. Align content, flex end, like so. Okay, so for step 23, we have these here, and what we want to do is, first let's change the direction so that we have, currently they are, first let's do a flex direction of column. Let's see what happens. Okay, so this is what we want. We want the greens to be at the center, but we want the yellows rather to be at the top and then the red at the bottom. So we need to reverse it. So instead of column, let's do column reverse. Great. Now let's do align content. And we are not doing justify content because now the secondary axis has changed. So the secondary axis is horizontal. Okay. So to get all of them jammed together in the center, we do align content center. There you go. All right, so finally we have step 24 or level 24, which is the last level. And so we have some greens parts here, a red part here, and then some yellow ones. So, okay, first let's do a flex direction of column. Let's see what happens. Yeah, and then, okay, but let's do let's do column reverse. Column reverse. no, reverse, like so. Okay, great. Now let's push these frogs to the right. So I'm going to do flex wrap. Let's say wrap. Okay, so that's not what we want. Let's do wrap reverse. Yeah, so wrap reverse. Now we have these ones here, and then the yellow ones are down here like so. Okay, so now I'm going to do align content. And the reason I'm doing align content is to check the space between the flex lines. So I'm going to push this one here. So I want space to be between them. Okay, so I'm going to say space between for align content. And then finally, I'm going to use justify content. Yeah, justify content should work. And I'm going to say center. Yeah, there you go. Great. All right, so that's it, guys. We did Flexbox Froggy, and that was a fun, nice game to play while we practice Flexbox. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and be sure to leave a like. Let me know if you want me to do videos for these ones as well, and we can work our way through them as well. Also, I'll be dropping a video very soon, so depending on the time you are watching this, check the description below if you want to dive deep into Flexbox. I have a guide that I've written. I'll leave a description to it, a link to it in the description below. Be sure to check it out. And that will be it for this video. See you in the next one. Peace out.